What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I did want to talk about what made Need for Speed The Run special. It is kind of insane to me going back and playing some of these games and realizing that they're not really going to be new, but they also hold up pretty dang well, man. I was playing through this game a bit and I was like, you know what? The graphics on this do look pretty good. Like the PS3 graphics really weren't as bad as people say they were, and I feel like a lot of games are probably going to reflect that. Now, a few things I did want to discuss with this, though, is I feel like Need for Speed The Run had a lot of positives to it. Now, yes, I do understand, once again, people are probably not going to be the biggest fan of the handling. I do understand it. And the reason why I mention that is a lot of people do tend to say something about that in different forums and stuff, which is probably going to be true because I did notice in some areas you definitely have to practice a bit. In fact, guys, one of the races I was doing was going to be in the Lamborghini Gallardo. You did have to off-road it, which you guys are going to see me attempting to do in the background. I really had some issues here and there. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to slide a bit. The off-roading physics may have not been that great. And with that, though, I was kind of curious to know what you guys think about the entire black box era of these games. Which game do you guys think they did the best when it comes to handling? Which games might have been the worst? I might even end up going back in and playing every single black box Need for Speed game and maybe making a video about that in the future. But I gotta admit, I don't think the run is terrible, at least compared to some of the other racing games out there, I would probably guess. But with that being said, though, even though the handling in this game might be a tad wonky, I still feel like in a way it is going to be special. And I know this is probably going to sound a bit dumb, but after playing the game for hours, though, I kind of did start to enjoy it, and I guess you could say I probably got just used to it more, and was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to off-road this car, let me go do that, I'll get back on the road and stuff. I'm going to get used to how this car is going to drive, I'm going to figure it out, and then on top of that, once you get used to the handling and stuff, then you're going to have to deal with the police, which are absolutely hilarious. I'm also kind of wondering, after playing the run, it kind of made me want to go back in and play Hot Pursuit Most Wanted, and also go back and play Most Wanted '05 and try to figure out which Need for Speed game had the craziest police. I am curious to know your thoughts on that in the comments. Might definitely make a video about that. But the police in this game, though, man, on top of everything else, really did make the game feel special because they really did put pressure on you. It actually did remind me of Hot Pursuit 2010, to where, yo, you are going to be racing. You can't just sit there in a beautiful sunny field and just cruise around, you know, sipping your coffee. No, the police are like, hey, yo, bruh, what you doing over there? And they are going to slam into you. They're going to block you. You know what I'm saying? Blocked. Am I right? They're going to pull in front of you, basically pretty much block the road. Call in roadblocks as well. There's also other stuff that can happen, which is kind of insane. It really does make the racing even more intense because you're trying to get used to the game and also, you know, used to the handling. But with that, you're also going to have the police just basically trying to rip you apart. And yeah, that's probably a fun factor of Need for Speed. With that being said, though, I did end up discussing the entire atmosphere thing, guys. I gotta admit, I feel like they really did nail this. Again, one of my favorite areas in the run was going to be the Rockies. The reason for that is I did really love the snow. I love the atmosphere they did end up nailing there. Is it going to be the overall best place in the game? I would say that's probably going to be a bit subjective. Like, people might be like, I mean, it's cool, but I kind of like this area more and stuff like that, so I do understand it. In fact, racing in like the open field area, seeing the mountains in the background and seeing like these storms and all that really do look amazing. I did kind of like driving through the Midwest a bit and seeing like the cows and the animals, and it kind of just gave you like the feeling of where you are going to be driving. Like, you're not going to be in the exact same location every time you were pretty much racing, right? You were going to see different tankers and different things, and you see like hay bales, and you can see the insane storms in the background, which I gotta admit, guys, I really do love the way that looks. One of the races I was actually doing really showed this very well. Like, you could see the dark clouds, or like the storm front, really gives you like that crazy atmosphere when you're racing. Even here, you know, in Florida, which is going to be a very good place to see some crazy storm fronts come in, because you can see like the entire sky gets super dark. You know the storm is coming. That's kind of what I was getting when I was playing the run. I was like, man, this looks insane. See like the lightning coming down. You're racing against people. You're going against corners, and there's all kinds of stuff you also have to think about when you're racing, and it kind of just adds onto it, makes the racing game even a bit more intense, which I feel like the run captured pretty well. They're not kidding when they basically said you're on the run, because you basically are. You start in like 205th place, and you have to get the first place. So I feel like right there is probably something, yeah, let me go do that. You know what I'm saying? Now, I was going to talk about the story a bit, which I still will, but the reason why I'm going to wait a bit more on it is I do have a story type of video I do kind of want to go over, guys, of like talking about stories in racing games, whether it should be like a story-driven thing like Need for Speed The Run or Festival Racers. do stay tuned for that. But one of the things I loved about this game, though, is the fact that you're pretty much going to be, okay, well, you are obviously on the run again, but I really did like some of the cutscenes where you had to hit some of the buttons. You were jumping off like a building and landing on a railing. You would then jump off a building and see like a really slow moving cutscene of like the helicopter there at like the cinematics. It was just pretty dope. I kind of like how they added to where you have to hit the buttons to run faster, and then you had to hit like another one to jump. And if you did end up missing some of those, you'd end up kind of cooking yourself, which was hilarious. And I remember that one cutscene to where you had to hit certain buttons to get away from the police officer there, and I'd end up missing some of the buttons, then failing, then having to redo it. Kind of laughed, and I got really surprised though because I legit jumped in a police car and I was able to race it. And then not only are you going to be racing a police car, but bro, you're then going to be getting shot at by one of the helicopters as well. You then had to like stay out of the spotlight and stuff like that so the car doesn't get destroyed. And I was kind of surprised going through the campaign. I'm like, yo, this is pretty dope, man. I really do think the overall like story-driven part of a racing game is actually pretty dope. I do understand a lot of people probably just want to race and stuff and, you know, get through it, get the cars they want. But I also kind of like the way that how this game kind of puts you in there going, okay, well, this is for a reason type of thing. You know what I mean? When I was going through and driving the police car, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I kind of wanted to pause the game. I really wish it was like a photo mode or something to where I can pause it, look at the helicopter and stuff. It just looked very cool, and I was like, yo, this is actually pretty amazing for my first time playing this game. I did not realize it had things like this going on for it, and it really did make it intense, because it wasn't going to be like a tiny little like 30-second race in that car. No, bro. You had to drive through the city, different areas. You had to figure out ways to get around it. They would then shoot cars. They'd end up crashing into you like your way or something like that. It really added the entire effect of making Need for Speed special, but I feel like that was kind of like a Stampede thing Need for Speed always did. They kind of wanted to focus on like an overall, okay, well, this is not going to be a festival race, or no, you pretty much have to get in there and go, okay, well, this is going to be a story-based thing, like similar to Need for Speed Heat and all that, which was kind of a good one, even though that story was very short. I'm not really sure how I feel about Unbounds, but when I play something like Unbound and jump back onto this game, I'm looking at this going, oh, bro, look, I'm like upside down in the car, and then like I have to kick the window out or figure out a way to get out because a train is coming after me. And yes, if you wanted to ask, I failed this like 3 or 4 times because I kept hitting the wrong buttons. So I was looking, just staring at the train going, oh yeah, I kind of need to get out of here, don't I? I was hitting the wrong button because I wasn't paying attention. But it was just a very cool cutscene, and I feel like things like this really add on to racing games a lot. And in fact, you guys are probably going to see me fail in the background, which makes this even funnier. The thing is, though, jumping on to Need for Speed The Run, this is my first overall time playing the game. I really do think this game really has a special feeling to it. I don't know if it's going to be, again, the way the cars feel. I really do love the map design, the way it pretty much takes you through the entire US in a way of going across a bunch of different type of areas. They all feel different. I really do love the way the graphics look, seeing like the fall trees and the storms in the background, the animals, as I mentioned. You're then going to go through these snowy mountains, see like the avalanche thing come through, which that was absolutely wild. The other part you had to drive through, there's like things that can blow your car up, you had to dodge it. Like there really was a lot of things you'd end up going through in the game that makes you go, dang, this is pretty dope. Kind of makes you want to play through the game again. Even the final race was kind of wild. I've always seen videos of that, of people going through it. I'm like, no way that's the final race, man. But no, going in there, man, I pretty much crashed so many different times in some places. I did notice going through like the cargo area, I crashed into some of the boxes sometimes, or even like the big crane foot and stuff like that. I kind of laughed because I'm like, man, I'm failing right now. And you know what's kind of funny about that is sometimes you might end up getting frustrated, like, why do I keep having issues here? Why do I keep crashing? I was literally laughing during these moments, guys, not even kidding. I was like, all right, well, that means I'm going to have to drive better. I keep hitting that box there. I keep failing in this area. Okay, let me, you know, get rid of my lovely skill issue that I'm having and be able to fix this. And some of that probably comes in the fact of playing other racing games, other handling models and stuff, driving different cars, how they're probably going to have different feelings to them and stuff. That all definitely does make sense. But with all of that being said, though, I feel like all of it probably comes in to tie Need for Speed The Run as one of the most special Need for Speed games ever. Personally, I would love to see it on PS5. Imagine, guys, having this game on PlayStation 5 with the multiplayer working. That is obviously something I can't play because it doesn't work because they shut it down, which I gotta admit does make sense. I mean, it's not like this game is new. I really do wonder if 2015 is going to be shut down eventually. That would probably spark some stuff. But I would like to know what y'all think about Need for Speed The Run in the comments below, and what do you guys think made this game so special? Right off the bat, I think probably the story for me was probably one of my favorite parts about it. being able to go through the game in 4 hours, for some odd reason, you're probably going to think I sound dumb here, but I enjoyed it because that means I can also speed run the game again with different cars and see if I can beat it, going on a higher difficulty and stuff. For some odd reason, I kind of liked it. I don't know why. And you know what's funny though is I actually think that was a point of why a lot of people like Need for Speed The Run, is because they could go through it, seeing how fast they could probably beat it and go, okay, well, I could be faster here. Doing this on like the max difficulty and stuff like that even added on to the fun factor, making Need for Speed The Run, even though the game was short, still going to be one of the better Need for Speed games, at least, compared to some of the games we have nowadays anyway. I am really curious to know what y'all think about Need for Speed The Run in the comments below. What do you guys think made this game special? For me, I can definitely count multiple things off. I really did like the campaign. I thought it was dope. I love the atmosphere changes. The way the game looks really is amazing. I do understand the handling of the cars is a bit wonky, but if you're having issues with that, one thing I can recommend though is just play the game a bit more. I think you will end up getting used to it. That's exactly what I went through. And to be honest, after I played the game more and kind of went through it, I really was getting used to the handling and I actually started to enjoy it. Again, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments below. Even with that being said, Need for Speed The Run is also going to have body kits for cars. You can customize them a bit when you are going to be at the gas station. So yeah, it kind of hits the mark in different areas, even though this game is going to be different. It still honestly blows my mind that this is going to be the final game from the Black Box era.